So getting into just like you, how are you doing? One, and how's your hip doing?
I'm doing good other than my hip. I'm really enjoying school
Nice.
and I will say things online a lot, but it's really like I grew up in a very academic home
Mm.
and it was just always, like can't get below a 95. Like it was just such a like and my mom is she was a teacher for every single grade throughout her career and then worked for the
Whoa.
Board of Education of New York City. So it was just always was like National Honor Society and just stuff like that. So falling out of it for a while, it was like, oh, I'm doing all these other things I haven't done, and getting back into it feels like a part of myself I haven't gotten to tap into in a long time. So it's
That's awesome.
like that good stress where you're like, no, I need 100, and you're like, it's chill, it's you pen, and you're like, oh, so it's good. I took a fisherman suplex on the floor. It was my choice too. We like
Oh
we
no.
had the match called, and I was like, "What do you like to do?" And she said, names moves, and I was like, "Okay." She's like, "Oh, you want like a bang? Like I call it like a bang move, or do you want like a this move or whatever?" I could have done. I love doing stuff on the outside. I could have done like submissions or whatever. And someone had just mentioned they did a stalling suplex on the floor, and I was like, "Oh yeah, well, see about that." So she said she likes doing fisherman's, and I was like, "Bah, whatever." And we're doing the thing, and we get and I don't realize what texture the floor is because I'd seen turf everywhere and I'd stepped
Yeah.
on it, but I didn't pay attention to what type of floor. And I've fallen on the hardwood floors, and I feel like your body just gets used to it when you're wrestling 5 times a week. And it took a nice sabbatical, and then I took that fisherman and I lay there, and I have a safe word where I need the match stopped. So if I say my safe word, that's it.
Smart.
If I don't say it, don't call it. And the ref comes over, poor ref, comes check on me. He's like, "You okay?" I was like, "Just leave me here, like forever." And he was like, like I got him to corpse a little bit because I was just like, ah. and,
Yikes.
and
That bad, huh?
oh man, it just felt like a giant shock down my spine, and it like
Mm.
radiated in my hip. So at first I was like, "Oh no, did I hurt my back?" No, like I don't. I mean, I would assume the spine's going to be worse than the hips because there's just a lot of going on there. So I was like, "Oh well, this is the go home. So let's get up and do it." So I get up, I get to the next thing, give her the DVD on the apron, and I wanted that timing to be closer, where it's like she almost got me by taking me out on this fisherman. I get up on the apron like
Mhm.
Archduke. I throw her in a quick pin, like grizzled old lady covering her, and then big kick out. And we laid there on our respective floor and aprons for a second, and I could already feel I was losing steam with the hip. I could feel it was
Mm.
gone. So I was like, okay. And I do the rest of the match thinking it's just like sore. And then the adrenaline starts to wear off, and then I can't walk. Like it just like stops existing. And I just like, okay. And the guys there were really nice. They were like, "Do you want us to like carry you and pack your bag?" And I was like, "You know what? Yeah, I do need that." That's like I've never ever asked for that.
Oh,
I
that's
like
bad.
fractured my orbital bone. I've done all kinds of stuff. I drove with a dislocated knee. Like I'll do all of that, and then like this time I was like, you know what? Okay, I'll take it. You guys can throw me in the car. It's gonna be good. And I needed a wheelchair in the airport, and it was wild. And then I got to the urgent care, and she was worried I had fractured my spine, and I was like, no. And she was like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "We didn't do that. Just talk to my body. We couldn't have done that right now because I can't."
Oh.
And like, thankfully, like we took some X-rays, and it's a sprained hip. So it's all like that muscle, and it's really in the top part too.
Hmm.
Usually it's like sciatic because you land on, and you're just like it's all a posterior
Mhm.
chain, but it's really like in the front next to my quads and like in the groin area. So I'm just kind of
Huh.
like walking like flare. Yeah,
Ooh.
right. It's like, and then you don't know because it's the hips, and there's so much you can do with it.
Yeah.
Every time I get a chance, I was like checking my rotation ability, seeing like where the pain is it pull or push, like so I have more intel, so where I know how to navigate it. But
And
it'll just
also talk to your doctor because,
right.
like, how do you communicate when you're feeling and how it feels in your body?
Yeah, I was like, it's right here. She did the whole thing. She checked my spine because she was really worried, and she knows I'm gonna wrestle more. So yeah, and then I'll be like, okay, I can do that, and I'll like walk a little bit, and then all of a sudden, weird turn, and I'll be like, ah, just like go down. So I'm like trying to not walk. Shimmers next week, so I'm trying to just be on my best behavior.
I was going to ask about that later on if that was still in the cards for you or not, but it seems like it is as long as you baby yourself a little bit this week.
My
Uh,
parents have been wonderful. They've been coming through and taking the dogs out and making
that's
sure I
awesome.
don't move.
Speaking of the dogs, how's Magnum doing? How's life as a retired officer at this point?
Ah, yes. He's very much asleep.
Oh,
See if I can. He's very passed out right now. So
aw.
we did a house visit. No, my room is a mess. I'm sorry.
Eh,
He is just not moved from that position.
oh my goodness.
We had house paws is like a vet service that will come to the house and then do like little calls that way. And
That's
he's
awesome.
very fear-based aggressive when it comes to vets. He used to not be. He would just love to go in there, stand on the table, get the pets. Something happened the one time I wasn't in the room at a band field. And it
Mm.
wasn't our normal location either. I was just getting his nails trimmed and I thought we were on the way. We were passing a PetSmart and he came back and I was like, oh no. I just knew. And ever since that moment, it's been like he turns into like Hulk dog. It's wild.
Okay.
You can't even picture. Like he's just the
Oh,
sweetest bean.
poor little traumatized
Like
baby.
he was like jumping and snapping, and we gave him like a little bit of the trazodone or the gabapentin to like relax them. Nope. Like doesn't affect him at all. He's just like still. When luckily everything's good. We did the blood work while we had him, while we finally relaxed him because I stuck to this vet even though it's like not covered under a wellness plan. I was like, no, you are a human and I like you. Here you go. So both doggos have all their shots. They're ready to go. The Pennsylvania Ren Fair is still kind of open.
Yeah,
So we're hoping to go.
that's
I just
dope.
want to see if they have like, you know, night outfits and like princess dresses for them. That's really it. Like I
There's
could not, I could just go there and get them outfits.
You can go there and find just about any weirdo niche thing you need to at the PA Ren Fair. This has somehow become an advertisement for the PA Ren Fair, but if you haven't been there, go there at
No,
least once.
it is one of the biggest ones too. And like being from the Bronx, I would go to the New York one with my family, and then I've been to the Michigan one, which is beautiful.
Yes,
It's so large and just gorgeous.
that's cool.
PA, like some of the girls are trying to get together. So I was like, y'all need your shots. So
Nice.
everyone's good to go. Now
That's
hopefully
awesome.
they're passed
Well,
out.
good luck on that adventure. Um, Awkwardly segueing into like more wrestlings. Well, I guess we were kind of talking about wrestling with your injury, clearly, but more like kind of focused on some bigger things beyond just your most recent match. Um, how does it feel to you to be ranked on this past year's PWI 500, and especially at a slot like 318?
It's so cool. Like I can't even like I had messaged and then thanked them like on the DM, and I just saw like all of us are there. Like basically the crew I was in vans and cars with all last year. Like we all did it, and like being amongst the guys, being like the 30th edition, and it was just very special. And and obviously they have fun with it, and they put people in there, and then like they had mentioned they were like, Magnum has been a great rookie, and I was like, oh please, and they do have some fun with it, and it's just like an honor to be like in the 500 with everyone and my tag partner, like, and the girls that did intergender with us, and
Yes.
just our little like crew there was just, I was like, oh, and still life is, oh, just yeah, because
It's
we're
a
like best
really good
friends.
list.
Yeah. I like I didn't know who all made it yet, so like when I went online I just saw people like posting their pictures. So like, great, they're saving me so much time because now I can just see everyone like posting what number they made, and yeah, that was
That's
really
so
awesome.
awesome. I'm happy you mentioned like the kind of group that you came up with, that you were traveling with, and especially Willow, because I had a chance to talk with Willow Nightingale last month at the Mahoning show that she did. And she was just absolutely gushing over you and your partnership together. So I want to ask you sort of the same question that I asked her. What does it mean to wrestle with Willow, and to be part of what's seen as a pioneering tag team for today's era, a women's tag team for today's era.
I can't talk about it enough. It was just from the moment I wanted to be her tag partner. I just see it, and I just see her as she's so bright and vibrant, and she's so talented, and she still has so much potential, right? Like there's so much to grow from where she is, and she's already awesome and amazing, and the chemistry just worked. And she's my ride or die. I would do anything for her, and we became best friends during the tag, which was just so cool because Drew Cordero was just kind of like, oh, so what about you and Willow tagging? And like, you just play it cool, right? You're like, yeah, well, I just got out of like a tag relationship, and like, I know she likes to do her singles thing, and I don't want to like step on any toes. Like, well, like, yo, if you book it though, like, I'm happy to do it. You just want to you want to get that first date going. And we do talk about it on our podcast that we took a hiatus from. What we talk about our cute meet and all that on there, and it's just it's so good. And we're actually designing more merch now. And I don't know if you've seen Mrs. America. It kind of touches.
I've seen them advertisements for it, but I haven't actually watched the program at all yet.
It ate me up. I was like, I watched the first episode thinking like, what? And then I was like, oh my God, because like that's the era my mom was growing up in, that she was fighting for equal rights and like the ERA and just making movements. And she was one of the first girls that was able to go to an all men's college.
That's awesome.
Like, it was like her and like 12 other girls, and then like here.
Your mom just sounds like a badass.
Yeah, yeah, it's real big shoes to fill, and we're not very tall people either. And it's just so I don't know. I'm so proud of Willow. I'm proud of where we started, how we got here. I'm excited to see where we're going. We're working on new gear right now, and I'm really excited about the color scheme.
Yes.
Yeah. So we have a couple things on deck like that. We're gonna do a little bit of that, like a little Broad City kind of influence in our gear, just to have a little fun, since we're both New York girls and all that.
Love that. As a New York transplant myself, I was born in Queens, so before I moved out to Pennsylvania. So I know the city is near and dear to my heart, and I am very, very excited to see what you have in store for merchant gear. That is exciting.
Same. I'm pumped about it. But it looks like we'll be down she's doing For the Culture at the Collective. So we're going to go a day early, as well as with Officer Magnum, which he usually doesn't do, like, the Mania week or the Collective things, but he has like something brewing possibly. So we're going to go down there together, and then we're doing Shimmer. So it's going to be really exciting.
That is exciting. That'll be a fun weekend. You've been at wrestling for a while now. I don't know if people quite realize how long you have been wrestling. It's nearly about a decade at this point, right? If I'm not mistaken.
My 13th year.
13th. That is, you are a vet at this point. So, as a vet, as someone who's been at this now for over a decade, do you find yourself taking on more of like a mentorship role with kind of new people or younger people in the business, people with less experience than you?
Well, I try to. It's hard because like around 9 or 10 years is where people think I've been wrestling. Like I hid it for a long time where I started, because it wasn't a great introduction to wrestling. And I'm very okay with that. I'm happy in a lot of ways because it gave me a lot of experience in order to try and prevent that from happening again. And so I tend to try to reach out to everyone that's newer. And if I don't know them, or if we have a match and it's like this girl's 2 years in, or, because there was a while there where I was having a couple matches like in a row or weekly. I was like, oh, she just started. And I always just let them know, like, here's my info. If you need anything, I'm here. Just like extend the hand out. It's interesting to call matches because you're just trying so hard to give them something that they can take away. I'm always in service to the match. So I try to approach it with like, I know I want to do dumb stuff, but I'm not going to put that on this poor person that's only been wrestling like 2 minutes, like, hey, hey bro, so like, insert death move. And they're like, I think I learned a clothesline last week. Yeah. I try and just take it to wherever they're at and ask them what I could do for them in the match. So what can I help you elevate? What move are you trying to establish? What character are you trying to establish? Is there any ways in which I can help benefit you to get traction moving forward? How can we structure this match so that you can watch it back and take something from it? There was one young lady that I'd wrestled, and I try to ask like what your finisher is so I can get an idea of what body part you're working, like so I can try to, okay. And so there was a couple of things in there where I focused on a couple of chaining moves that I didn't tell her, just so that she could watch back and take those. They're not something I use usually, and I was kind of really focused on the legs at the time, but I tried to do a couple of things for her so that she could take those transitions and like,
learn.
Yeah. So like, because you don't always get class, and I didn't for a long time. So I just try to do it like that, and it's really fun. And most times it's just a positive experience. Like I can't think of like the last time I was like, oh my god, just get me McDonald's. So it's usually just like really good, and I've wound up meeting a lot of new people that way, which is cool. It's so weird to be in like a different position.
It is, but I can totally see. I see such a through line from your mom's influence to you just working with other wrestlers there, because you said education's so important to you, and your mother being a teacher, like that's going to instill some of those values of like you have to help the next generation, and it's your responsibility to get them along, so that one day they can then pay it forward to the next generation. Like it's that responsibility once you have the experience to pass it along, and that's such a great ethic to just live and embody. So I'm happy that so many of the young up and comers, especially maybe marginalized folks, whether it's marginalized genders, marginalized sexuality, race, whatever it might be, has someone in you that they can go to, that will have their back. That's a really wonderful thing.
Yeah, I love it. I just like, I don't know. If it helps them at all, or if it like sets them up to have a different, like more confidence after, and then maybe they can like pass that on in their youth now, like while they're still young, and then like mess it up a bunch with their like fellow up and coming generations. I just feel like anything I can do to like give them a better trajectory, then like I've done my job. And and sometimes even if they don't feel like confident enough, like a lot of people don't hit me up or ask, but the door's always open. So like if anyone if they get to watch this and then hear it later, or it's by word of mouth, like DMs are always open. Hit me up any time of day if there's anything I can do. And that's what I'm here for.
I love it. You mentioned earlier having sort of a rough start with wrestling, maybe not the best introduction. How have you seen wrestling, and particularly the independent scene, change from when you started wrestling to now?
I see a lot of people that are in generations like just above me or around my time that maybe they had different starts, and so maybe they've gone up to like a television, or they've gone around, and we've all traveled in different ways.
Yeah.
And it kind of feels like I look at wrestling at like a microcosm of what just a human life is. We just do it a lot faster. And you just kind of see that in someone's like career trajectory, right? So like their arc is basically symptomatic. It's just an example. It's just like being in a play, but you watch it condensed in a 3-hour thing, and then those actors go on to something else. But it's kind of how I view it. And I see everyone that came in with rough starts really trying to change it. Which is funny, because then there's some kids that come in that are very coddled and don't know, like they don't know anything about what it's like in the outside world. So they're just going out there with a little bit more of like an entitled perception on what wrestling is, even though it's so funny, because I never thought I'd be this person to be like, you have no idea what it was like, kid. Well, like there is that kind of like, everyone worked really hard to make very comfortable locker rooms, or very just increase the camaraderie. I like a lot more locker rooms nowadays than when I started. Yeah, because I left the Midwest as quickly as possible.
So that you found a lot more, I guess this is just from my personal knowledge, I know probably a lot more success on the East Coast than for you, or at least more comfortable situations on the East Coast for you than in the Midwest.
Yeah, Absolutely. 100%. I don't know how, I don't know how it still kind of has things over there, where it is a little bit rougher there, and everything has progressed generally.
Mm-hmm.
I found after like a couple of years in and out, constantly quitting wrestling, that I couldn't let that be a satisfactory answer as to what wrestling was. So I went to Florida, and then once I started navigating the coast a little bit more, and coming back closer to home, like I'm like, oh, okay, all right, cool. So like people do have a handle on things, and now we're the adults. We can kind of like adults, but like
Yeah,
you
but
know,
it's
we can
so
try and
true.
make that a little bit better. And yeah.
Absolutely. So kind of along those lines, sorry, I thought I had a burp coming up, but it
Oh.
didn't. Awkward. So along these lines, one of the promotions that got caught up in the speaking out movement is JAKARTA. And you've been such a part of JAKARTA's history, and even you and Willow kind of went out when the promotion folded as the tag champions, as the Campeonatos de Parajas. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
parejas. Yeah.
Parejas. Getting better at my Spanish. Um,
Still working on my.
so having been an important part of that promotion's history, I'm curious about your thoughts on losing what to many is a really important independent promotion, particularly on the East Coast.
Yeah, I think it's not fair. I don't think it needed to happen that way. I think a lot of unnecessary grudges were held for a very long time. And I say that specifically because I always try to lead with empathy. And I don't think people necessarily everyone knows what real empathy is. And then that word has only been in our English language since about 1908, where we started to differentiate empathy versus sympathy. Now, as I am now studying like that for serious reasons, for this reason exactly. And it felt like so many people turned on everyone so quickly for so many things and lumped them all together without giving them the individuality that those cases deserve. And everyone is an individual person, and the things that apparently we got burned for happened like 10 years ago. And I don't know about you, but 10 years ago I was a different human.
Absolutely.
I can take myself at my worst moment and I would be canceled too. We all would. We would all think of your worst, your lowest moment, the thing you wish you never said, the thing you wish you never did. And we're human beings and we're flawed. And that's what's beautiful about us. That isn't what should be condemned about us. We're here with flaws to evolve. We're here with these flaws to learn from each other, to make that better, so that our story arc in life, at the end of it, we have learned and grown, because there's no greater story than one that's redeemed and saved, like that one that comes up from I was here, I did this, and now I'm this. And I've gone through the mud, I've gone through the dirt, I've climbed out the well, I repaired the relationships I hurt. All of those make for a very enriched journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Mike very personally, and without bias, which was the great part of our dynamic, because we're very able to be very open with each other. And I find it to be a great shame, because that was the place I called home. I learned a lot there. I moved here for it, you know, a lot of people did. And I was proud of the generation I was representing that had come after all of those that I love, right? With Hollow Wicked being early on in Generations, Fire Ant, everybody.
Yep.
Like all of those people that came in, right? Young Bucks came and did Chikara work.
Mm-hmm.
That's an honor to us to have those titles for all of those that held it before us. For someone to give you that credit and say, like, I trust you with this. And that's a huge representation of a company, of a brand. And I find that to be a great honor that you earn. So not having that home, and then kind of feeling like because I saw him try to fix it, but he works at such a rapid pace, right? So it's like, gather all the information and then I'm so sorry, and how do I fix that? But it works at that rapid pace, and everyone online was just so toxic that, you know, at one point I asked one of them, like, okay, what is the solution for you? Like, what makes you feel healed? Because tearing down people's houses, ruining people's careers, and then casting them out to dry is not humanity. That's not my subscription. And I'm not going to leave the people that I love when they do wrong. And I don't expect them to leave my side either. Although I'd understand, because people have this claim of, career suicide. Well, to me, what's suicide in your career is showing your lack of loyalty or your lack of compassion or your lack of trust. If I give you my life, I hold my hair back if I'm sick, because I know that no matter what you've done, I'm going to be by your side. I promised you that. That's what a friend is. That's what it means to be in a family. You don't leave them when they need you the most, or else what was it all for? And I can't do that no matter who. And so it's sad. I don't think it's gone forever. I would
I hope not.
Yeah, a couple of conversations I've had with other workers is trying to instill that everyone looks to us for how to act. No, like, they might rage and they might go online and share their emotions, but then they look to us for our reaction, because ultimately we've been given that responsibility. It's our responsibility to show everyone that we're taking responsibility for everything. So it's our responsibility to show them, don't be afraid, stop hate, stop wishing people death. That's the worst thing. That's why I turned off Twitter a lot of the time.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
all of those things are very crucial and important. And we got it. Like, we understand you're upset, but this toxicity isn't going to help anything get better. And the new generations coming in are people too. And if we don't learn and show these new kids that we take care of the people that beat their bodies, murdered their spines, have multiple concussions, have bled for us. If we don't take care of these people, we just cast them out. What do you think is going to happen to them?
Yeah. They have no one to go to. They have no place to be safe. They have no one guiding things to away from how it has been that's harmful and towards something that's more beneficial for everybody. And I think you hit upon something really interesting with the difference between mistakes versus intentional abuse. Um, there's a difference between someone making a mistake and then changing their behavior when it's pointed out. And you can't treat people the same way for that, for having made a mistake and being open to changing, than someone who is intentionally trying to harm somebody, intentionally trying to manipulate somebody, intentionally trying to hold someone back. That intention piece gets so lost in the online discourse because it's just so easy to look at the act and not have to think very deeply about why it happened and how and for what reasons. Because that's
that matters.
It matters so much.
It matters. And I tried to stay a little bit vocal, and it got so heavy because I just watched like my home burn around me, and nothing was satisfactory to them either, right? They already took everything away and they were still very heavy and nasty about it. And then, tried online with me once or twice, and I was like, no, that's okay. But I still love you because I understand that you're hurting and you're also projecting and you're also all of these other things, because human life is complicated and it is a gray area, and you can't reduce an entirety of a relationship to 140 characters, right? Like, there were a handful that were all like relationship based, and it's like, while we understand, there could well be mistake in pattern. What do they say in Westworld? We're just 10,000 lines of code. So if you think about how our hardware and our technology has improved over all this time, but our brains still operate the same, that hardware hasn't changed.
Not
And
much.
it is our responsibility to just understand and give ourselves a little bit of credit, like, just be easy on each other. And I understand that we're hard on ourselves and maybe hold other people to these great standards because, we're having trouble with all that. And it's just a battle with the mirror and with everyone. And it has to start here. You have to have a little bit more compassion, or else those kids are going to grow up and do the same things. When you get concussions, it changes personality sometimes, depending on what part of the brain it hits. Time away from home, bad relationships, all of these other factors that just like life has. What's their upbringing like? What are their patterns like? They're going to be in situations where then they set aflame the people that came before them. They have no one to turn to because they're making the same mistakes. And then people are just going to cancel them too. Because
And then
it's
the cycle
people.
repeats.
So I hope over time that eventually talking about empathy enough and sharing these podcasts enough, it'll spread a little bit more, so that when people, if they should, go out and try to correct their mistakes, no matter what they were, and come back for that apology and come back to make amends, however that is, to make amends, that we can be ready as a community to be open to that. That's all we have to do. Like, just be open to it.
I love that. And you and Willow are such a beacon of positivity and a beacon of this empathy and compassion that people should be leading with, wherever you have to talk with, work with, be with other people who are just as flawed as you are, and I am, and everybody is. So kind of hitting the go home here on this interview. Short-term and long-term goals, short-term kind of within this unknown period of the pandemic, however long it may last, and then sort of thinking long-term, once we're past this, once we have the ability to sort of have wrestle life as normal. What are your goals?
I would love to just be healthy for the rest of the year out, enjoy the matches that we have, support how we can, finish this block of schools so that I can begin my master's in applied positive psychology. So I can finish my master's, long-term goal, and bring that to the wrestling community.
Love
and
it.
I talk to Jackson Stone quite a bit now, as we're both also on the same kind of, wavelength in that regard, with empathy and loving everyone. So I hope that a lot of us that have found each other through this too, because that pandemic did bring a lot of us together to try and build that network, so that I can bring it back to wrestling. And then when wrestling's back to normal, I can do both. Because I would love to wrestle 5 times a week again. Would love it.
Yeah, I'm sure your body misses it in some ways and loves it in some other ways,
Right, yeah.
So we have education goals. We got some, do you have any wrestle specific goals beyond just continuing to foster like a behind the scenes community of positivity and support?
Oh, I would love for Willow and I to go to AEW. Like, I don't know. I don't know if we're supposed to be shy about that, but I would love for us to be at AEW.
Put it out there into the universe. You got to manifest
it. Just like Alley Cat, manifest it. Put it out in the universe. I would love that for us. I think we're so strong together. We can compete in singles. We have just like a blend of experiences that we'd be willing to learn, and we'd also be willing to share whatever we could to help the roster. And we know so many of them there, like we know most of them really. So it's just like, that's really, I would love for us to go there.
You hear that, TK? You need to develop that women's division. So 2 people would love to help be part of that in Solo and Willow.
Just on the casual.
So let's finish up here. You mentioned appearances at the Collective. Willow's going to be appearing at a show there for the Culture Show, correct? And then you mentioned the Shimmer Show. Any other appearances having coming up the end of this year?
Perhaps if Beyond were to run another show, we would perhaps end up on that one. I really hope something for Halloween happens.
It would be fun
because of our costumes, because I'm really pumped about them. So
I'm just pumped about it. You're hyping me.
Magnum's involved. It's going to be great. I'll just start posting like little pictures as I make it, because I want to jinx it, but we're making the outfit. So like once I get it a little bit closer to that done side, I'll start posting pictures.
Yeah, there's a difference between the pattern draft and then the final.
Yeah, so as soon as I start on my Patreon, I usually post like all the thread bind stuff that we do. So
awesome.
Yeah.
So there you go. We got a plug for the Patreon coming in there. Anything else you want to plug or mention before we wrap things up?
I do a lot of my fourth wall breaking on Patreon, and then you can find us mostly on Instagram, as Twitter can be kind of hot nowadays. So it's just at Regulation Solo Darling. We'll do stories on there, and we post a lot of silliness. So try to keep it light on there.
Love it. So go follow Solo for some silliness and light content on Instagram. Follow on Patreon for some exclusive content as well. And Solo, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today. This has been great.
Thank you. This is lovely. Thanks for having me.
Have a great one.
Bye.